Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be featuring two new products. The first is the new Makeup by Mario Softsculpt Transforming Skin Enhancer. So I'm going to be using that and demoing it, doing some comparisons for it. And I'm also going to be doing the same with the new Victoria Beckham Reflect Highlighter Stick. So if you'd like to see all of that, just keep on watching. As you can probably tell, I'm in desperate need of some color on my cheeks, so I'm gonna go in with this new Makeup by Mario product. It's called the Softsculpt Transforming Skin Enhancer. So he came out with the Skin Enhancer and the Skin Perfector, I think. The Enhancer is more of a balmy cream, and the Perfector is more of a sheer powder, as I understand it. I don't have the powder, I just wanted to try the cream product, so that's what I'm gonna be trying. I have the shade Light. I've used this several times already, so I have formed my thoughts on it fairly well. I think it's really, really balmy. Almost feels like a Vaseline or a lip balm. This is what the color looks like. So I really tried to pick up quite a lot of the product, and you can see just how sheer it is. I'll go in with the second layer here. So that to me is the great advantage of this product, is how sheer it is. It's really easy to apply and pretty hard to overdo it. And I think because it's so sheer, that's what slightly differentiates it from another more typical cream bronzer. If I compare it, for example, to the Nars Laguna cream bronzer, this is so much more pigmented. So I've picked up some on my finger there, and let's swatch it next to it. Here's a second layer, and you can just see it has much more opaque coverage. And then if I compare it to another cream bronzer, this is the Salt New York Sculpt and Bronze in the shade Light. And again, I picked up probably about half the amount that I originally picked up of the Mario. And this is somewhere in between, because you can see this is really not as pigmented as the Nars, but it's still more pigmented than the Mario. On a spectrum, this is probably closer to the Mario than the Nars because it is much more buildable, and it also has a balmier feeling. The Nars has a creamy feeling, but there's almost like a slight dryness, a slight powdery feel to it, whereas the Salt New York is much more balmy, more like a traditional cream type of texture. And then the Mario is even again balmier and slippier. The tones of all three of these are actually pretty similar looking. It's hard to tell with the Mario because it is so sheer. I think that some of my skin is coming through. It looks a little bit slightly grayer than these other two. Still peachy, but with a little bit of a kind of gray tone, but that might just be my skin that's coming through. It's really hard for me to tell. So let's get this on my face, and I'm gonna try going in with a sponge first. I've actually only used a brush for this product in the past, but I'm kind of curious to see how a sponge will work. So I'm gonna go right into the product there. So there's the side with versus without. I'm gonna do the other side with a brush using my Sonia G Classic Base brush. And when I apply it with a brush, I kind of like to do a combination of kind of patting it on first and then really gently swirling and blending. It's interesting because I prefer the experience of applying it with the brush. I just feel like it goes on faster and doesn't require as much building, but I actually like the way it looks applied with the sponge a little bit better. So this is the brush side and then the sponge side. I just feel like it's a lot more blended and natural looking with the sponge. So I'm taking the sponge again, I'm just gonna go over that brush side with the sponge. I find this has a lovely dewy finish, and I appreciate the sheerness of it again. I think for people who are a little bit timid with bronzer or with cream bronzer, or if you have very pale skin and you just want something really, really subtle, I think that this would be a great option for a cream bronzer for you, or if you want to use it more as that kind of skin enhancer. It's kind of hard to tell what the true intention of this product is because it seems to be marketed more as an overall complexion product. I personally don't think I would put this all over my face. That's something I could try, I guess, as sort of a primer layer. It would certainly give a nice texture as a primer, but I would be concerned that it would just be too much color for my skin tone. But that's another option of how you can wear it. And it does look good with minimal makeup. I know I have more of a full face going on today, but it looks nice with minimal makeup too. But I do find the downside of this is that it fades pretty quickly. So within maybe 3 or 4 hours, I find it really fades quite a lot. So I think it wears best when it is set with a powder, which is perhaps why he released it with that powder product. And I've found that it sets really nicely with the Huda Glowish bronzer because this is quite a glowy bronzer, but it's a powder, so it has the ability to set down that really dewy product while not removing too much of the shine because it has a shine of its own. And I find this is also quite a sheer product. So I've already built up 2, now 3 layers of swatch of the Huda bronzer. And you can see it has that similar sort of sheer quality that I think really plays well with the Mario cream. So I'm gonna take my Wayne Goss Edit brush number 1, nice big fluffy natural fiber brush. And I'm gonna go right into the Huda bronzer and just place it basically everywhere that I've already put that cream. There's the side set with the Huda bronzer versus not set. You can see it does enhance and intensify the color, but I think that's a good thing because, as I said, the Mario one does fade. So if you want it to be more subtle and you're okay with it kind of sinking in and disappearing as the day goes on, then just don't set it, or you could set it with a more translucent powder and it still is going to fade away, but it'll last a little bit longer if you set it with a translucent powder. Or you can make sure it lasts all day by setting it with a powder bronzer or a darker complexion powder. I just think this is the perfect use for this bronzer. I think these play together so well. Okay, now I want to go in with the new Victoria Beckham highlighter. This is the Reflect highlighter stick. The packaging is beautiful. It's exactly the same size as her cream blush packaging, but it has a different design, which I think is beautiful. I love the gold. It has these ridges, which gives it kind of an Art Deco type feel. And even the top is different. It has the white with the gold VB logo. I love the combination of white and gold. It gives me Tom Ford Soleil vibes, which I always think just looks so fresh and clean and crisp, especially for the summertime. This is what the product inside looks like. Again, I've used this several times already. So it did have the little VB embossing in there, but that disappeared after about the first use of the product. Let's see how it looks swatched. It's pretty hard to see because it is fairly translucent. It has a little touch of a yellow, kind of slightly goldish, maybe a little peachy tinge to it that you might be able to see there, but it is fairly clear and transparent, and I think would be suitable for any skin tone. I wanted to compare it to a couple of my Westman Atelier lit up highlight sticks. The first one I have here is Nectar, which when I saw the pictures of this Victoria Beckham highlighter online, I thought of Nectar immediately because online the VB one looked a little bit more peachy. There's Nectar there. I can see a little bit more pink coming through there. It's really hard to see these colors, but I can see a little bit more pink, whereas the VB is a little bit more yellow. And then I watched Beauty Has Been. They did a video on the VB highlighter last week, I think, and they compared it to Parla, and it did actually look a lot more similar to Parla than it did to Nectar. So there's Parla, Nectar in the middle, and the VB shade is called Pearl. So you got a little bit more of that yellowy champagne feel from both Parla and from Pearl. So I applied this to bare skin first. I'll insert that footage now just so you can see how it applies to bare skin. And now I want to go in with it as a proper highlighter. I'm just going to take some on my finger and pat it onto my cheeks. And I want to take my sponge, a clean side of it, just to kind of make sure it's really pressed into the skin. Just kind of blend around those edges. So there we have it with the highlighter and without. Let's put it on the other cheek. There, I think you can see the glow better on this side just because of the way the light's coming in. It gives a beautiful wet look. I think it's very similar to the Westman Atelier. To me, they're pretty hard to distinguish, especially once they're on the skin. The feeling of them is similar, although I would say the Westman Atelier feels a little bit balmier. It has a touch more of a little slip to it. It's almost like a lighter weight product, whereas this one feels just a tiny little bit thicker, a little bit tackier. It's not really sticky, but it just has a slight bit more tack and less slip than the Westman Atelier. But I think in terms of how they function on the skin and how they look on the skin, they're pretty similar. I wanted to read a little bit about what the Victoria Beckham website says about this product because I found it quite intriguing. So they say it's a state-of-the-art ultra high dimension cream highlighter for an impeccably fresh glass-like glow, and I would agree with that. It is quite glassy. It's luminous and sheer on all skin tones. And then this is the part that really caught my attention. Cutting-edge air core pearlescent pigments leverage hollow cores that catch and reflect light from all directions like an infinity mirror. That sounds quite intriguing to me. So it sounds like it's full of these little hollow spheres that refract the light in a special way. It also has strawberry butter, which ensures a smooth application, while soft focused silica microspheres blur pores and softens texture. I will say it does feel a little bit more blurring than the Westman Atelier, but I wouldn't have come up with the term blurring to describe the texture of this. It just kind of obscures the texture of the skin a little bit more than the lit up sticks, I would say. And maybe that's, again, partly because of those little microspheres that are kind of obscuring the way the light hits the skin and playing with the way your eye kind of takes in the information of what it's seeing. It says it creates a universal glitter-free glow that lights up all skin tones from every angle. Your complexion looks instantly nourished and refreshed. So I'd say all of that's true. I have worn this as an all-over primer as well, just like I like to do with the Westman Atelier sticks. I wore it underneath my Lisa Eldridge foundation yesterday, and it looked really nice. It did basically the same thing, just provided a much more hydrated and glowy base for that more matte foundation to go over, and overall ended up giving a more moisturized and kind of natural skin finish rather than something that's a little bit more toward the kind of matter side. I wanted to finish up with a little bit of blush, so I pulled out my Victoria Beckham Cheeky Posh blush in the shade Roller Skate. Really nice bright coral, which is a somewhat intimidating shade. So I'm just going to take it on my finger and then actually onto the back of my hand. And then I'm going to go in with my sponge again onto the back of my hand. Just pick up the smallest amount to start out. And here's the completed look. So just to round up my thoughts on these two new products, I think the Mario is quite an interesting product, and it is unlike anything that I have. I think if you're looking for a very sheer and subtle, buildable and dewy, creamy bronzer type product, this might be great for you. But I think if you already have, you know, 1 or 2 cream bronzers that you're really happy with, I don't think this is a necessity. It's a good product, but I personally could probably live without it. Although now that I have it, I will use it, and I can actually see myself enjoying this a lot in the winter time too, when my skin is even paler than it is now. But I think if you're looking for something that's gonna last and wear all day, you definitely would need to set it with a powder product. And the Victoria Beckham, I think I've already said everything I needed to say about it. It's a great product, but it's not revolutionary to me. It's not something all that different from the Westman Atelier sticks, but the quality is excellent, the presentation is beautiful, and I will definitely continue to use this on a regular basis. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions or comments below. I always love to see those. And if you'd like to see more from me and you haven't subscribed to my channel already, I'd love for you to do so. Thanks again so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.